Good evening, New Hope. Again, we come again on Wednesday night, ready to understand what the Bible has for us, as well as what the Bible can show us, as well as what the Bible, again, strengthens us in knowing what God has already wrote through the unction of these men. Again, Moses, designed Genesis that we may be able to understand the history of God's people. Remember that, again, New Hope, and those of you that continue to tune in to this YouTube feed where we are talking about in this multiplied series the covenant that God made with Abraham. I want you to remember again that if you read from Genesis chapter 1 all the way up to Genesis chapter 17, you find out how the beginning starts to unfold. Not only how God created the heaven and earth, but even how the fall of man comes about, even how Cain and Abel have the first murder. Again, we talk about how the Tower of Babel comes into play. Now we're talking about Abraham. Now we're talking about Abraham, and then we also understand what God did with Noah. But as we enter into this part of the Multiplied series, again by Francis Chan, on page 166, God is now creating a people for himself. Remember, he made Adam and Eve for himself, but now he's creating a people for himself. In this chapter, in chapter 17, God makes a covenant again with Abraham, not only just with Abraham, but with Abraham's seed. Remember, in creating a people for himself, God wanted us to know that even in this time, even in today, right now, that if we are connected to Jesus Christ by believing in him and having relationship with him, that we are joint heirs. Matter of fact, we're part of the seed of Abraham. Now, when we look at where the covenant is and how God designs the promise for Abraham, remember that if you read in Genesis chapter 17, he already says, hey, look, that I'm not only going to make a covenant with you, I'm going to make a covenant with you and your seed. Again, we want to make sure that you understand the history that Isaac was not the only son of Abraham. Ishmael is the oldest son of Abraham. And again, the descendants of Ishmael, 12 princes, again, out of that tribe comes all the way down to the Arabs right now. The Arabs that are in the world right now today. So again, not only did he make the covenant with Abraham, but he calls Abraham's seed to become rich, to become blessed in the land. Isaac's seed is blessed. So again, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all of those, these are the descendants of Abraham, all the way down to Jesus Christ. Now, when we look at it, Jesus establishes a new covenant with us, a new promise with us. Again, that he looks beyond our faults and see all of our needs. Again, when we look at how Jesus today versus God taking care of Abraham back then, Jesus takes care of us now because of the covenant relationship that we have with him. Now, how do we have a covenant relationship with him? Because of the shedding of his blood, because on the cross he was sacrificed for us. Abraham, again, if you remember back on last Wednesday, I told you God made a covenant with Abraham by walking between the halves of sacrificed animals. Again, we know that God is a covenant keeper. He is a promise keeper. If you read Genesis chapter 17, verse 7 and 8, he says, and I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. Verse 8 says, and I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Again, he establishes Abraham in a strange land, and he says, not only am I going to bless your seed, but I'm going to be your God and your seed's God. Again, Abraham's son, the same God that blesses Abraham is the same God that's going to take care of his descendants thereafter. Look, when we talk about the covenant that he makes with Abraham, he makes a relationship with him. Again, I would be proud, just like the writer just says in so eloquently in the book, that look at how God makes relationship with his people. He creates a people for himself and then has a relationship with him. Doesn't that sound like our Father, our God, Jesus Christ? That not only does he shed his blood for us, but he even makes relationship with us. Again, he says, now, again, I love you. Now I'm asking you to love those that, again, that are a part of you. Love them like I have loved you. How does Christ love us? He looks beyond our faults. He looks beyond everything that we've done. Again, if you look at how God takes care of Abraham, takes care of Israel, again, he looks beyond Israel's faults. He looks beyond all of those things that they've done, even turning their backs on him. He still turns around and says, but I am your God. Jesus turns around and says the same thing. Listen, don't do anything to him. Don't, because I'm yet interceding for him. I'm yet perpetuating for him. Now I not only died for them. So when we look at how Christ takes care of us, God takes care of his people the same exact way. Look, when we look at how God is embodying the humanity of his people, God takes on a covenant with his people to show them that not only can I lead you, but I also can take care of you. If we realize that each and every morning that we get up, each and every morning that we start on our way, that it wasn't us that did it, it's that God is orchestrating every move, every being in our lives. You got to realize something, that you don't live, or you don't walk or breathe in this life without the hand of God guiding, or without the hand of God helping, or without the hand of God making sure that you are clothed, and not only clothed, but you are in your right mind. Again, he is our provider. He is everything. As a matter of fact, Abraham eventually ends up calling him the provider. Everything that he is to us. Because again, when you look at what God desires from us, God desires our devotion. God desires everything that we can give him, because again, when we look at it, for God gave us everything by giving us his only son. Now, New Hope, when you're studying chapter 17, you got to realize that God lays out a promise, not only just to Abraham, but he lays out a promise to the seed of Abraham. And when we look at how we are connected to this covenant, we have to know that we're connected to this covenant through Jesus Christ and through Jesus Christ alone. Now, know that your inheritance, my inheritance, is based upon the relationship that we have with Christ. So, with that being said, New Hope, those of you that are studying, those of you that continue to study Genesis chapter 1 all the way up to chapter 17, you see how God unfolds and how God gives to his people and make sure that they're not only taken care of, but even in a strange land, that they are well provided for. Listen, because we are Christians inside of a world that hardly ever recognizes our Father, that we are pilgrims traveling through a barren land, that we are strangers here, because our residence is no longer here, because we have a residence now in heaven. Again, we are earthly beings, but with a home that's in heaven. Again, I want us to understand that God has, from the beginning of time, made sure that he's provided as well as he's taken care of his people. Listen, we are the body of Christ. And because we are the body of Christ, that he takes care of each and every one of us. If you understand that we are joint heirs, not only are we joint heirs, but we have a right to this kingdom. Because Jesus Christ said, those that I have not lost a one. And those that are in his hands, again, he has provided for, he has taken care of, and he will keep until the end of time. Remember, he says, I am Alpha and I am Omega. I'm the beginning and I'm the end. So remember this, in answering question number 6 on page 107, after you've taken time to read the creating of a people for himself on page 166, on page 167, you're going to take time and you're going to answer question number 6. You're going to answer it fervently. Not only will you answer it fervently, but you're going to give me a call. You're going to give me a text, or you're going to email me and let me know what you got out of chapter 17. And as you compare it to how God takes care of his own. Again, the Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee, New Hope. The Lord lift up his countenance unto thee and give thee peace. Good night, and God be with you.